I would like to thank today's sponsor, W Energy. Go ahead and put in promo code REASON to get a nice discount. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Reason Rises with myself, Doug V. I'm your host. I've been missing for a minute, and I want to explain myself, and I'm going to keep it brief and succinct here. Firstly, the last episode that I did of Substance was regarding the war in Iran and the decisions that Trump has been making, or had been making at that point, which was only, I believe, 2 weeks into the war or so. And while I was acting as a prognosticator at the time, and the things that I predicted did come true, and the things that I continued to predict came true, I wanted to be ahead of everybody and get videos out, but generally about 3 days after I say anything is going to happen, the mainstream media winds up covering it, and they've actually been pretty on top of it and pretty accurate. So I didn't really feel that I had anything unique to say about that this entire time, really. Everything that I would say about it has been said in the mainstream media or in major opinion sources, and always 2 or 3 days after I say it, but regardless, they're doing a pretty good job of covering everything. So if you're not watching mainstream, and by mainstream, I guess I mean the kind of stuff that you find on smart news. I don't watch TV news, so I'm not talking about necessarily CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, etc., but the reading sources that are national. If you've been following that stuff, then there wasn't a whole lot more that I could add to the conversation. But on top of that, I had a dream that, and nobody wants to listen to anybody's dreams. It's like one of the worst things you can do as a human being is share your dreams with other people. Nobody wants to hear it. But I'm just going to briefly tell you there's something wrong with my brain. I don't dream the way that other people dream. I haven't been diagnosed with anything, so I don't exactly know what it is, but at a certain point in my youth, I learned how to lucid dream, and essentially on demand as long as certain conditions are met. And ever since I learned that skill, my dreams have been different than they ever were before. And what I mean by that is I dream in color. All of my dreams are hyper realistic, as in boring. They go in real time. Regular, real, normal things happen. If they are things that do not happen in everyday life, they still happen in a realistic manner. I can smell, I can touch things, I can tactily feel things. My cell phone still never works. My light switches still never work, so all the standard stuff, but in that regard. But I do dream in hyper realistic scenarios. And I had a dream that I can't even discuss verbally. I really can't, because it was so disturbing that I've had to get some help after having this dream. It was a hyper realistic dream of the 3 or 4 hours that would occur after nuclear Armageddon, but it was from my viewpoint in my small my small rural area, and what would realistically happen. My children were there. We had to deal with all of the minutiae that would realistically happen in such a scenario, and it was terrifying in its banality. The fact that there were so many just normal everyday things that still had to be taken care of in that few hours, even though we knew that certain death was coming, was horrifying. Um, um, yeah, I honestly can't even get into this on camera. I will do a pod about it, but today is not the day. But it disturbed me so much that it was the only thing I wanted to do a pod about, and yet I couldn't bring myself to do a pod about it because I can't discuss it. It was, and when I say it was terrifying because of the minutia and the banality, it was the most poignant detail that I think I can get out here was we knew certain death was coming in a number of hours, and as I was driving uh, from one place to another trying to transport goods, I saw children playing in all of the parks without their parents, completely unsupervised. And it it dawned on me that the parents had chosen to release their children to just go and be kids and play by themselves together for their last few hours while grown-ups did whatever they could do as grown-ups. And yeah, that's literally as deep as I can get into it. It was so disturbing that it affected me psychologically, and I've been dealing with it for a number of weeks, basically since the last time that I chose to broadcast. So time to get over that, time to move on, time to get back to hopefully posting daily here. So I'm just going to tackle a couple of subjects. The first one that I'm going to tackle is the war in Iran. The calculus has not changed. And here's what I'm going to say. We are in what is a war that is unwinnable in the short term. And people keep coming up to me and asking me what my opinion is and what do I think is going to happen with this whole Iran thing. Here are just some basic facts. Iran has now proven that they can cause serious military damage to us. They've proven that they can control the Strait of Hormuz and that does not require an intact military. All that it requires is the ability to wreak havoc once a day or even once a week. The Strait of Hormuz is not, the traffic in the Strait of Hormuz is not necessarily dependent simply upon traffic being able to move unabated. That's not the calculus. The calculus is whether the insurance companies that insure these ships will accept the risk of having a ship go through the strait. These insurance companies plan for this kind of thing. There are actual clauses in these insurance contracts that do account for the possibility of war, particularly in the Middle East. It's not a surprise to anybody that there might be some kind of war going on in the Middle East. So they do plan for this contingency. However, Iran has not an unlimited supply, but still has a substantial supply of these Shahed drones. They are still capable of producing them and renewing their stockpile. And they're incredibly cheap. They're incredibly effective. And all that the leadership of Iran really has to do in perpetuity, essentially, is wreak havoc once a day or once a week. They fire one Shahed drone at one ship once a week or once a day, or even just threaten to do so. And the insurance companies have to double guess whether they're going to allow the ships that they insure to transit the strait. And that fucks the international oil market. On top of that, they can wreak havoc in a neighboring Arab country that is allied with us. And that also keeps everybody on edge, and they can keep this up essentially forever. I kind of liken it to a filibuster in the Senate. If you're not familiar with the filibuster is, it essentially means that a senator can get up and talk unendingly to run out the clock, to basically make it impossible to vote on a bill, or at least impossible to come to a conclusion on one. At a certain point in the 2000s, the filibuster essentially turned into nothing more than a threat. So if somebody from one side or the other said, we will filibuster this bill, that was as good as actually performing the filibuster. There have been times when they've had to fulfill the filibuster, but for the most part, all you actually have to do is say, I'm going to filibuster this bill if you bring it to the floor. And that's enough to kill the bill. Because if the threat is made good, then, there's no point anyway. So it's kind of the exact same thing in the Strait. And Iran has all the cards here as far as that. And what the leadership, their calculus is, we don't particularly care if our citizenry gets killed. We know that the Americans will not attack our culturally significant sites. We know they won't attack our religious sites. And we know that they are burning through $1 million and $100,000 interceptors and jets and the rest. And jets and drones and the rest, while they're shooting them down successfully. I believe this morning I read that they have actually taken out 44 of our aircraft so far. There will be a fact check on the screen as always, but their defenses are still adequate, and they really just have no motivation to do anything but let us continue to get extremely ill will throughout the world for wreaking havoc on the international economy and the oil market, and waste our own money and piss off the electorate in the United States, which isn't good for Donald Trump. They can keep all this up forever. They are much more adept at international diplomacy than we are, even when it's negative diplomacy. They're better at it. Let me rephrase that. They're better at it than the current administration. We do have very smart people who could have done this the right way, and I would have advocated for having the CIA go in and do a move similar to what they have been doing in Central and South America since time immemorial. But we didn't go that route. And it was Israel who pushed us into it. Israel decided that they wanted to attack. They forced Donald Trump's hand. I think he should have been much stronger and refused to participate. Every president before him and all of their advisors knew that this was a bad idea. Everybody knew it would result in the Strait being closed. Everybody knew that it would lead to the world economy going haywire. Everybody knew that prices would go insane for gas, groceries, everything else. And he knew it. He was told. And he decided to do it anyway because he was pressured by Netanyahu. And that is what it is. We are where we are. Nothing can be changed about it at this point. But what is the answer at this point? I don't know. What I do know is Iran can keep this up for what will seem to us like forever. The other thing that I know is that gas prices are never going to go down to what they were historically again. And the reason for that is because the entire system of transporting oil is going to adapt to this situation because it's forced to. And when that adaptation occurs, it is going to lower prices a bit because we're going to figure some stuff out, but it's never going to go back to the way that it was. And we are all going to have to live with the reality at least for the next 15 to 30 years, the way that these insurance companies and oil companies and everything and other governments have to plan, we know that there's no going back to the way things were. Iran is almost certainly going to institute a permanent toll system. They've demonstrated that they are not afraid of our military advances. They've demonstrated that their leadership isn't going anywhere, no matter how many of them we kill. So, short of serious military intervention in country with boots on the ground, which we're not willing to do, the American populace is already pissed enough about the involvement we've had. Things are never going to go back to the way they were. There's going to be adaptations made, and the world oil economy is going to shift to getting the oil in different proportions from different places and transporting it in different ways than we ever have before. That's going to incur costs, and it's what's done is done, guys. So this is going to end when Donald Trump decides that we have lost and that it's time to pull out. When he does so, he's going to obfuscate and lie and say that we've won in a way that we haven't won. And he's going to claim that we've gotten a victory we haven't gotten in order to save face. But it's not going to change the reality on the ground. So get used to the prices, guys. They'll go down. They will go down, but they're never going to go down to what they were before. And if they do, it'll be a short spurt, and then it will rise again. But where I think we're going to wind up as far as gas prices, I think regular is going to settle in the long term somewhere around 370, 380, something like that on a good day, on a good couple of months. And that's just going to be the reality. And when I say that, I mean in Arizona. California, New York, other states, you guys are going to be looking at higher prices, but it's just never going to go back to the way that it was. It's just not. This move did something that I believe was good, which is get rid of the leadership that we got rid of that needed to happen, and it's tempting to say that they needed to be punished because of the terrorism that they have funded, caused, and supported throughout the years. Their anti-Israel sentiments, their anti-United States sentiments, none of that is pleasant. We wanted it to go away. But has it gone away? No, it hasn't. So there's that. The only other thing that I wanted to cover tonight, and then tomorrow and the next day I will get back to posting on a daily basis, but just one other quick thought that I wanted to cover, which is I still see people on social media posting ridiculous memes and stuff that suggest that Democrats want everybody wearing a hijab, everybody to be trans, wide open borders, even if the people are criminals. Yeah, you name it. You know, the mainstream media has us at each other's throats and believing that Democrats are just basically insane people that believe and want a bunch of really insane things, including ridding the entire United States of guns and religion and morals. You go ahead and keep believing that. But give or take, 45 something percent of the United States considers themselves to be a Democratic voter, even if they don't actually vote Democrat every time. That's about the percentage. That's about half the people you meet on a day-to-day basis. How many people have you ever met in your entire life who you could look at in the eye and say, I think this person wants every single baby aborted. They want baby murder. They want every single criminal from Central and South America and Mexico to enter the country and commit crimes. They want to take away everybody's religion to where they can't go to church anymore. They want to take away every single gun. That one's a little bit debatable, but I'm a Democrat. I love my guns. Um, you keep naming it. I mean, everybody wearing a hijab, everybody to be trans. Apply this much logic. Apply this much critical thinking. The people that you meet every day in your life, friends of yours that don't talk politics, but you think might be leaning left, the barista who gives you your coffee in the morning, the librarian who helps you when you go to the library, for that matter, the person who sells you a book at the bookstore. How many of these people do you really look at every day and you go, this person wants every baby murdered, and they want everybody wearing a hijab. They want everybody to be Muslim. Like, come on, man. It's fun, thinking that stuff and pretending it. But that's what you're doing, is you're pretending. You know damn well that that's not what we actually think, what any of us actually want. There are crazy people on both sides, and I hope you'd own yours if you're on the right. But to pretend that upwards of 40% of the American populace wants everybody in the world to be a crazy person, come on. Use your brain. You're smarter than that. I have faith in you. I think you can think through this. So that's all I wanted to get out for tonight. Excuse me. I'm gonna go ahead and call that my welcome back pod. And I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. I know times are tough. I know stuff's expensive. I know that for some people on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum, you are having trouble figuring out what bills to pay in order to make sure you can afford gas to even get to work in the morning. Thank God summer just started. You don't have to drive your kid to school, so that'll save you a little bit. Hopefully you've got multiple siblings that you're raising so that hopefully some of the older kids can save you on babysitting or after school care. I just hope you guys are doing okay. I hope everybody's doing well. And also, exciting things coming for this pod. We are still working on changing the format. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be live. It's going to be big. It's going to have an audience. It's going to have guests who are nationally known. And I want to once more thank our first sponsor, W Energy. So that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for listening. Stay safe out there, and we will talk soon.